Welcome to week 23 of our vocabulary study. After this week, there will be 1 week remaining before the end of our study for the year. Again, there are 6 words this week. You have been given a note-taking sheet, and there is homework at the end of the video. I don't have a copy of my ILJ here, so I can't recall what page number it goes on, but it should be noted on your table of contents. We're going to study all adjectives this week, so we'll get started with our first word, which is malevolent. If you recall, last week we had the word benevolent, and this is pretty much the opposite. Mal is a Latin root meaning bad, and so someone who is malevolent is someone who is not a good person. They generally wish evil or harm to others. If you think of Disney characters who are kind of the villains, those individuals are generally characterized as malevolent. Here you have another famous character, not necessarily not a Disney one, but a evil character nonetheless. The malevolent Wicked Witch of the West did all she could to seek revenge for the theft of her dead sister's ruby slippers. Our next word is prudent. Again, an adjective. You can add an ly to convert it to an adverb. And someone who is prudent is someone who acts using wisdom and cautiousness, and they are careful in the things that they do. They think before they act. If I saw you walking down the hall and you were just about ready to trip a friend, just to be funny, not to be malevolent, I might stop you and say, that's not a very prudent thing to do. You've got to think before you act. Be wise in the actions that you take. And here is a guy who is not being prudent. It is not prudent for Doug to eat this gigantic burger. There's no doubt he'll have a monumental tummy ache when he's finished. And yes, this is a real thing. I don't know how many pounds this said it was. I put this up last year, but this is just wrong. Not prudent. Our next word this week is querulous. And someone who is querulous is always complaining. They're full of complaints nonstop. Of course, on Mondays when homework is assigned, I hear a lot of querulous students. You can add an ly for an adverb, and the state of being querulous, querulousness, is a noun. And I can think of no one better to be the poster child for querulous, but Oscar the Grouch. Furry, green, and probably in need of a bath, the trash can dwelling Oscar the Grouch is the most querulous neighbor on Sesame Street. He always complains about people bothering him, and he is generally grumpy. Our next word is impetuous, and this is pretty much the opposite of prudent. When someone acts rashly or suddenly without thinking, they act in haste, they do things impulsively. So someone who's prudent does think things through. They use wisdom prior to making decisions, but an impetuous person doesn't think before they act, and sometimes that can get them in trouble. Once again, I used an example that's really kind of the opposite meaning of impetuous, as I did with prudent. The decision to send brave Navy SEALs to take out the terrorist Osama bin Laden was not an impetuous one. Our commander-in-chief, the CIA, and military advisors spent months weighing their options because they did not want to fail in the mission. So they did not act rashly. They were actually prudent. I use the nots in these sentences so that you understand that when you create your own sentences with these, or you do the homework assignment at the end, you can consider the opposites. Next, we have sublime. And something that is sublime is something that is just wonderful, awesome, something that inspires awe, something that's outstanding, supreme, um, just wonderful and fantastic. Often you will hear sublime used when describing food, especially desserts. The dinner was sublime, the key lime pie was sublime, her dress at the prom was sublime. And here I've converted it to an adverb, um, and it's describing scenery. Sublimely scenic, Switzerland is a popular vacation spot of both Americans and Europeans. Now, this is an adverb, not just because it has an ly at the end, but scenic is an adjective. So, an adverb, as we've discussed many times this year, can modify an adjective, a verb, or sometimes another adverb. So in this case, the adverb is modifying the adjective scenic. Our final word is abhor, and abhor something, to abhor something is to hate it, to loathe it, to detest it, to you just can't stand it. You could abhor a certain kind of food like Brussels sprouts. You could abhor the way that your brother or sister acts when they're around your friends. So it's just basically to hate, dislike, greatly, loathe, detest. I'm fairly sure that I've made it known before. I absolutely abhor sitting in a traffic jam. It is certainly one of my least favorite things in life, and I know I'm not alone. All right, that's the end of our words, so stay here and take a look at the homework assignment that you'll be asked to do on the opposite page of your ILJ. So if my memory serves me correctly, the very first assignment I had you do this year was personified vocabulary. We'll be sort of ending the year on that, although next week you'll have your last set of words. Remember, personification is giving an inanimate object a human characteristics. So for each word, you're going to create an appropriate name for your personified word. And if you stay tuned, I have an example. And if you look at the example, it will be easier for you than it will be to just kind of guess what I'm asking you to do. In 2 or 3 sentences. If it's any less, your grade will not be a complete for the complete assignment. I'll take points off. So anyway, in 2 to 3 sentences, describe the personified words, personality, mannerisms, job description, outfit, those kinds of things. Just like you were describing a person. Pretend this word is a person and you are describing them. And finally, provide a visual for each personified word. This can be a stick figure of that person exemplified in the word. So I've got an example that follows here. Hang on just a second and I'll switch it over. And I will remind you, or not remind you, but I'll tell you I've got another slide coming up right after it with some important dates on it that you may want to pay attention to. Anyway, our word last week was benevolent, someone expressing goodwill, kindly feelings, helping others, being charitable. So my personified word here, I have given him a name, Mr. Ben Evan Olent. So it's a play on the word benevolent. Ben Evan Olent, Ben Ev, to his friends, is the nicest guy in town. He runs the local soup kitchen, mentors young inner city kids in after school programs, and regularly donates money to the Red Cross. He's always got a smile on his face and he's quite mannerly. All of these things would describe a benevolent person. And here I have a picture of Ben Evelent Evan Olent, and he is serving food at the homeless shelter. So there you go. That is what I'm looking for. I will also be looking for you to follow directions. Sometimes you guys create these things and you don't follow all the directions carefully, and that leads to losing points on the assignment. One more slide and we'll go. All right. So as I mentioned, one more week of vocabulary remains. Next week we will have funny but useful words. Often every year this seems to be the favorite week because they are definitely funny words, but ones that you hear used a lot. Our quiz for week 23 and 24 will be on Thursday, not Friday, the 8th of May. And that's incorrect here. They'll be on weeks 23 and 24. I didn't change that. And finally, the exam on weeks 19 to 24 will be on Thursday, May 22nd. So I think it would be a good idea to put these dates down on your calendar. I will continue to remind you, but it would be good for you to do that. Again, this is the quiz on 5-8 is for weeks 23 and 24, not 21 and 2. All right, have a great evening.